What's going on? What's going on, man? It's your boy Jeremy, man. We back with another episode of No Huddle with me, Jeremy, and my guy Hassan, man. So, second episode. We thank y'all for joining us again this week. We told y'all we're going live every week to discuss, some top I guess some exciting sports topics. So it's a debate show. So we want to welcome y'all to the second episode. I'm gonna let my guy, introduce himself and how you feeling, bro?
What's going on, everybody? It's Hassan the African man, and we gonna get into these topics, man. I'm so excited for this second episode. Appreciate everyone who tuned in last week, and continue to rock with us, and we're gonna bring some heat your way.
Yeah, definitely. To piggyback off what he said, man, last week I felt like it was a successful show. And you guys showed us some love. We definitely appreciate all the love that you guys have given us. Hopefully, this time you guys can be a little bit more interactive as well. Definitely hit us up in the group chat. I'm sorry, in the comment box. We'll read y'all comments. While we're live, and we'll try to get you guys involved. We got a lot of things lined up. So every week, catch us live, man. No Huddle, Jeremy and Hassan, man. Debating topics. Like I said, our debates are very genuine. We don't know what direction each other are gonna go in. So the only thing we do is we discuss it. We talk about the topic that we're gonna, we agree on the topics, and we go and do our research. And then it's game day when it's time. We practice. We do our thing behind the scenes, and then now it's time to go live. So definitely thank y'all for joining us. If y'all want to, chime in, definitely put it in the chat box. We'll discuss it. But yeah, so we want to, like I said, introduce y'all welcome you guys to No Huddle podcast. We want y'all to tell everybody, man, tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your dog, tell your cat, tell your snake, tell your rat, and throw in your Atlanta Falcon if you have one, because I got me one.
Eagles if you got that.
One. So today we repping our teams. Although he repped his team last week, now he on his other bandwagon. I'm gonna stay true. I'm gonna stay true to my guys.
Sometimes you got root for the home team, every once in a while.
Right. So I'm gonna stay true to my team, like I always do. But yeah, we want to welcome everybody, man. We got some people watching. So shout out to everybody that's watching, man. Don't forget, share, comment if you got something to say, because we always gonna comment back, like, subscribe to the channel. Fan of Atlanta 365, man. So, without further ado, man, I'm ready to kick it off if you're ready.
I'm ready. Let's get it cracking. Let's go.
Let's get it. So, as you know, we discuss two topics every week. So this week, we first gonna start off with which NFL teams got better this offseason. So I'll let my guy start it off.
All right. So I'm going to do one for the NFC and one for the AFC. So for the start with the NFC. NFC, I may sound like a homer, but I'm actually going to go with the Eagles. Yes, they have a question mark at quarterback, but they didn't get a downgrade there. But the obvious improvement is in their wide receiver package, the receivers. By getting A.J. Brown as your number one receiver, that is a huge, huge, huge acquisition. Now that takes a lot of pressure off of Devontae Smith. He can now continue to grow as a soon-to-be number one, but he'll also have a young, up-and-coming number one receiver to help him improve his game. Plus, now that gives the Eagles offense a new dynamic, because now you have Dallas Goedert in the tight end position. Then you have Smith as either, he could go into the slot now. Which seems more of a natural fit to him because of his size. He's a more undersized receiver, but runs excellent routes and is very competitive. But then you have a big target in A.J. Brown. Again, it all depends on whether or not Jalen Hurts takes that leap that everyone hopes that he does. But that's a big acquisition. Plus, he and A.J. Brown have the chemistry, being very close friends. But some other moves that they made by signing Hassan Riddick on the defensive end, That was another big acquisition that hasn't gone and gotten a lot of fanfare. I mean, this is a guy that for the past 2 seasons has put up double-digit sacks. So, I mean, having him with that defensive line is going to bode well for them. Then, speaking more on the defensive line, their draft. I mean, getting Jordan Davis to pair up with Fletcher Cox, like they have a stable of linemen. You know, they have that rotation. And the last time they had a similar rotation was in 2017 when they won the Super Bowl. So, not to mention, they went out and also drafted Nakobe Dean, who is a very underrated, in my opinion, linebacker from UGA, the reigning champion UGA. And then you throw in that they got.
I like that you put that in there.
You know, you got to show love where it counts. And then getting Bradbury for the secondary is another big move because now you pair him up with Darius Slay. So teams can't overload one side of the field. So all of that combined, they improved in terms of their offense, in terms of the receiving core. They've improved in terms of their linebacking core, their secondary, and their defensive line. So that's my pick for the NFC most improved team. Now for the AFC, I'm gonna go with.
Do you mind if I do that?
My bad. Yeah, my bad. I got so excited. You're right.
No, you did. The reason I want to alternate is because I think you read off my notes. I think you had a bug in my house. I don't know what it is, but you was in my house or something. I don't know. You stole my notes.
Vibing, man.
We had the same team. I got the same team, the Philadelphia Eagles, because you know I'm a very objective fan. I try to be objective. I'm a fan of football, and what I seen what the Eagles did was just. The Eagles never had a bad team. The Eagles have always had a pretty decent defense, if not a great defense. And to see the moves that they have made to help their defense get better, I definitely got them winning that division. Although a lot of the popular opinion is always going to be, the Cowboys. But I feel like the Eagles have made a lot of moves this season that are scary. When you look at, like you said, you alluded to it earlier, James Bradbury joining Darius Slay on that other side. Now you have 2 solid cornerbacks. Now we get that James Bradbury is a little older, but at the same time, James Bradbury is still a solid quarterback in the NFL. So you add him to that secondary. Then you add Kazir White to the linebacker core. A great acquisition. And then, like you said earlier, you got Hassan Reddick who can get to the quarterback. So now you bring in some talent to help this defense. And then you look at that draft. Like, come on, man, Jordan Davis. I wanted the Falcons to draft Jordan Davis, but unfortunately we didn't. And you saw what he's been doing. Look at those videos where he's like pushing these guys back, he's a man amongst boys right now. That's how he's playing. And I definitely feel like with Fletcher Cox as your mentor, come on, man. We already know what Fletcher Cox is. So now you got Fletcher Cox and you got big Jordan Davis right after him, just waiting to get on the field. That's about to be nasty, bro.
That's scary.
Then, like you said, you bring in Nakobe Dean, who was one of the best linebackers in college football last year, if not the best. Just a little bit undersized. But in the NFL, does size really matter anymore? Size, I don't think size ever matter. I think we have this false illusion that if he's big, he's gonna be good. But at the same time, we have seen a lot of linebackers, especially in today's game, that have been hybrid linebackers. They look like they could be safeties, and they also look like they could play linebacker. That's those tweeners that at the end of the day, when you turn on the film, you see what this man can do. He's very, very intelligent. He has a high IQ in football. And you teaming him back up with the guy he played with for at least 2 to 3 years in Jordan Davis. Now you teaming him back up with that guy and he get to be behind him. It's about to be nasty in Philly, man. And you're just adding on to that defense they already had. But let's switch over to the offensive side of the ball. Like you said, although I'm not a big fan of Jalen Hurts, he's not bad. I actually think he's better than Dak Prescott, in my opinion. I think he's better than Dak Prescott. But a lot of times the popular opinion is always going to be Dak Prescott. And the reason why I feel like he's going to be better than Dak is because Dak have always had weapons. When you look at his weapons compared to what Jalen Hurts have had, and also Jalen Hurts came in really expecting to be the backup to Carson Wentz, and then they traded Carson Wentz, and now he's pretty much put into that starting role. Whereas Dak Prescott kind of had Tony Romo, he got hurt, and then Dak Prescott wasn't expected to be the man. He come in and he just blows people away. Whereas so Jalen Hurts kind of came into a situation where it's like he didn't really have many weapons. They drafted Jalen Reagor, who never really was a top receiver. He got speed, but he hasn't shown yet. And now you put him with some weapons. You drafted last year, you drafted Devontae Smith. And then now you bring in AJ Brown, who can definitely be a mentor to help with the progress of Devontae Smith. Like he's gonna one day be a top receiver in this league. Right now, we trying to find out where is he at? Where is he a slot man? Is he an outside man? I think he can do both, like you said. And adding AJ Brown, who's definitely have shown that he can be the man. It's just going to give Jalen Hurts a better chance, and you got Miles Sanders coming out the backfield. So I definitely love their picks, and then also they got the center Cam Jurgens out of I think he came out of Nebraska. I like him coming out of college. Like I feel like now you got some offensive lineman help that's gonna help with the run game and also help protect Jalen Hurts as he get the ball to his guys. You got speed on the outside, and you got a physical receiver like another Julio Jones on the outside, and then like you said, Dallas Goedert, a good tight end for this team. So I got the Philadelphia Eagles. Believe it or not, I got the Philadelphia Eagles as my top team that has made tremendous strides in the offseason that's going to help them. And re-signing Derek Barnett, and like I said, you extended Fletcher Cox, and we know Fletcher Cox, as he declines, he's going to help bring on that Nets defensive tackle in Jordan Davis, and you're going to be able to have that guy for a franchise. He's going to be a franchise cornerstone moving forward after Fletcher Cox calls it a career. So I think we agree. I don't think we're going to be agreeing on anything else, but I definitely feel like we agreed on this one. So I appreciate you for your time.
Just to piggyback off of something else you said in reference to all of the other points you've made, the main reason I picked the Eagles, in addition to that, I also factored in if you improved, that's one thing, but if you didn't take a loss.
Yes.
So, for example, like my favorite team, the Rams. Yes, they improved. They got Allen Robinson. They improved by getting Bobby Wagner, but they lost Miller.
Right.
So comparing them to the Eagles, no part of their team got weaker.
Right.
By any transaction. Yes, the Eagles, they traded off JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I apologize if I'm
butchering his name. You got it right.
But they traded him, but he wasn't really going to make the team anyway. He was a long shot.
Right.
And like you said, they re-signed a lot of their core folks. And we didn't really talk about their offensive line. Yes, you mentioned center that they got from Nebraska, which is a solid offensive line school. The Big Ten is notoriously known for having strong offensive linemen.
Yes.
On both sides, but especially on the offensive side. However, the Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in the league, and they have for years. So name a part of their offense or their team that got weaker in the offseason. I can't think of it.
I feel like if they did lose someone, they got somebody that's like you said, Arcega-Whiteside. I mean, yeah, he was the only thing. He was like probably the best in that receiving core because they didn't really have much. But now you replace him with AJ Brown, who's a proven commodity in the NFL, who can go for it, who can be 1,000-yard receiver. So I feel like if you did lose somebody, you replaced them with someone that's probably light years of better. So I just don't see any drop off. I don't see any drop off.
And again, in that division, that might have been enough because, like we've discussed, the real threat to them in that division is the Cowboys.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the Cowboys, through injuries and trades, have gotten weaker at multiple positions. So,
and in that division, when you look in that division, you got Ezekiel Elliott running out the backfield, who has slowed down, who's not that Zeke that we used to remember. But now you bring in a Jordan Davis with a Fletcher Cox, like you're not running up the middle on them, like you're not. And then you look at Saquon Barkley. Yes, Saquon Barkley is not an up the middle type running back, but the thing about Jordan Davis, very athletic. For his size, the man still ran a 4 something. Like that's booking for a guy that was 300 some pounds, 6'6". That's huge. That's huge. So you bring in another athletic guy who can push dudes back like he pushing a kid, against his will, and who can also move like he's a linebacker or like he's an outside pass rusher. So it's definitely that defense is going to be catered to what this division is about. It's about run game. It's about power run. And it's about just being able to have that solid defense that can stop the run. And I think the Eagles definitely got better on that. And then you got Nakobe Dean, who's going to come up, clean up on aisle 2. That's what he do. He going to clean it up. Whatever they miss out on, if you remember, I don't know if you saw the Eagles preseason game, Jordan Davis got to the running back. He didn't tackle him, but he kind of slowed him down. And Nakobe Dean came up with the tackle. So you're going to see a lot of that because that's what they did at Georgia. That's why they were so great at Georgia, because you got a smart linebacker behind a smart defensive tackle that can move dudes against their will. Now you're going to have to double Jordan Davis. It looks like you're going to have to double this man because the guy's big. He's a big guy. And so I think that the Eagles, they definitely made a lot of strides in the right direction this year.
Yeah.
It's just going to determine what can Jalen Hurts do.
Exactly. They're the clear leaders of that division on paper by default.
Right.
But yeah, and what I think also that executive office, they're very intentional about how they do things. They're not panic driven. However, they're very observant, and I say that because they realized there was a talent gap in the postseason.
Right.
When they went against the Bucs. And I could see it in several key moments in the games. It was like, all right, well, they just need one play being made here or one play being made there. And they might not have had the playmakers to do it. But what they ended up doing was getting a lot of playmakers, either through free agency or the draft.
Yes.
Every player, for the most part, that we named would be able to make a play of some sort.
Correct.
Especially the big ticket items, or the big ticket players like AJ Brown, proven playmaker. And the thing that I like about him in that offense is he gets his numbers even if it's a run heavy offense. And the Eagles, I don't see them they might be one of those teams that still leads the league in rushing, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic as it was last year because they're a more balanced team.
Right.
They can spread it out and fling it now to multiple options.
Right. Question.
Answer.
Is Jalen Hurts better than Ryan Tannehill?
I don't see. Maybe I'm old school, but it's hard for me to give somebody that against a vet that's been in the game so long. And I know people are down on Tannehill because of last postseason, and he played terribly. But we got to remember, this is a guy who had to basically rehabilitate his entire career. Tannehill did, because he was supposed to be like a Marcus Mariota type. No offense, where he got drafted pretty high, probably got drafted way too high. And then never did enough to stay, the starter, but might get a chance here and there. I mean, out of desperation, I feel like the Falcons got him. No slander to the Falcons, but they got him. But there's a clear quarterback competition. Tannehill, for all his, faults, he flamed out with the Dolphins and then rehabilitated and created a second career with the Titans. That is very difficult to do.
Yes.
So I don't want to diminish his abilities.
Right.
And he has similar skill sets. He's a mobile quarterback. Probably a little too reliant on his legs. That's very similar to what we've seen of Jalen Hurts so far.
Right.
If you had to twist my arm, I would say they're probably about even right now. But again, Jalen Hurts is a pup. He's what, 3 seasons in?
Yes.
So
and that's the scary part. For us to say Ryan Tannehill had put in a solid career, right? And even when you look at his career right now, all the way up until now, Jalen Hurts is still neck and neck with this man, and he only been in the league for 3 years. So imagine if Jalen Hurts had a Derrick Henry. You know, he didn't get to have a Derrick Henry who teams are focusing on, and then have an AJ Brown on the outside, and then you bring in a wannabe imposter with Julio Jones, because somebody was faking like they was Julio Jones last year. Because I mean, even though I've been trying to tell people that for a long time, Julio Jones is not as great as y'all think he is.
No
more. I'm not saying he was never great, because he was, but at the same time, Julio Jones have hit that downhill slope now. Like it's all downhill from here on out. When he lost Matt Ryan, that was it for him. That's it. I mean, yeah, he got Tom Brady. We'll see what he do, but I don't think Julio Jones is that guy no more. But at the same time, he still had that name on the back of his jersey. So a lot of times he would get that double coverage or that attention with AJ Brown. So now Jalen Hurts has a Devontae Smith who somewhat proved himself. Even in his rookie season, he was solid. And I think he's going to get better over time. But then you bring in somebody who can be that number one guy. So now it takes the attention off of Devontae Smith, and you still got Dallas Goedert in the middle. You still got Miles Sanders running that thing. You still got to worry about Jalen Hurts getting out the backfield. So it's a lot of things that you have to worry about, on top of just more weapons on the outside for Jalen Hurts. So I definitely feel like the Eagles made a lot of good moves that fit that makes Jalen Hurts a better weapon, in my opinion. It's just now it's just going out there, just showing it, putting it on film. That's what it comes down to. So yeah, we definitely agree on the NFC side. So I'm anxious to see what you got on the AFC side. But I guess I start off the AFC. I'm
curious.
So my AFC pick is the LA Chargers. The LA Chargers. You signed big splash Khalil Mack in the offseason. You team him up with Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
That's about to be nasty. It's about to be nasty. I mean, when you look at this division, it's quarterback driven right now. You got to worry about Patrick Mahomes, you got to worry about Justin Herbert, and you have to worry about Derek Carr. Now you have two elite. I'm sorry, not Justin Herbert. You got to worry about Russell Wilson. So now you have two elite, solid pass rushers on the outside who can get you double-digit sacks a season. Right. You team them up. Now it's going to be like, okay, how are these quarterbacks going to stay up? You can't throw the ball if you're on the ground, or if you got a lot of pressure. A lot of times you ain't gonna have you're not going to be able to perform at an elite level if you have a solid pass rusher. Now you got two of those guys. But then they did some more. They brought in J.C. Jackson to team up with their other cornerback. And then you got Derwin James at the free safety position. So that defensive side of the ball, you're going to be able to shut down a lot of teams and be able to get to the quarterback, because you got two elite pass rushers, and then you got two cornerbacks on the back end, plus a safety who's a ball hawk, who also can split your wig if he need to. He's gonna come down and lay the wood. So you definitely got better on that on the defense and the offensive side of the ball. And then you add in defensive tackle Sebastian Joseph Day. You should know that guy with the Rams.
Solid player.
You brought in Cal Van Noy, who's a solid linebacker. So you added a lot of talent on that defense side of the ball. The offensive side, you re-signed Mike Williams. That was huge. And then you drafted Zion Johnson with the number 17 pick. So I definitely like him at that right guard position. You're gonna add in some more protection for Justin Herbert, and you got a solid running game. So I definitely feel like Austin Eckler. So I definitely feel like the Chargers, in my opinion, even though the AFC got a lot of talent that came to it, but I feel like the Chargers made some of those decisions that's gonna be able to like help them along the way, just like the Eagles. They didn't make the big splash, but they made a lot of key key I guess additions that made their team better, and also re-signed some guys that was cornerstones that's going to help them improve as a defense and as an offensive team. So I definitely feel like the Chargers had a better offseason when it comes to like a balance and talent.
Gotcha. Yeah, we definitely didn't agree on the AFC, which is fine. And I was torn between these two teams, none of which were the Chargers, although I acknowledge that Khalil Mack joining that division and joining one of the Bosa brothers, that's going to be scary. But I think for me, I looked at, okay, because the AFC West is going to be a dogfight. I feel like, yes, and each of those teams found a way to increasingly get better. I mean, you can look at the Broncos and getting Russell Wilson, and, you know, like you said, what the Chargers have done. But I'm going to go with the Bills because the rich have gotten richer. They were already arguably the best team constructed, period, whether you're talking AFC or NFC. But then you go and add Von Miller to that defense.
Yes.
Lord have mercy. And then you sign him. I mean, they gave him a lot of years. I feel like they gave him too many. And I get why the Rams didn't re-sign him.
Right.
And then you go and then sign Jamison Crowder as, I guess, your number 3 option at wideout. Come on, man. With Josh Allen and everything they have going on there, I mean, Lord have mercy. Like, like the rich just keep getting richer. And I look at it in terms of the division because the Bills were already considered the class of the AFC East, right? But then you add that, and I don't feel like any other team in the AFC East got better or improved enough to bridge that gap. Yes, the Patriots, you know, they do their solid picks in the draft, and they get these under the radar guys. I'm sure they're going to pick there's going to be some players that nobody thought of or afterthoughts who then, you know, produce for them like they always do. But that still does not close the gap.
Right.
The AFC apparently has to run through either the Chiefs or the Bills. And even compared to what the Chiefs have done, I mean, yes, they figured out that they're going to spread the ball more. They added, you know, Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think is going to be a dark horse candidate for most improved, even though he wasn't injured. But I think he's going to put up some pretty strong numbers. But they lost Tyreek Hill. I mean, they didn't get better by, you know, getting multiple different receivers like Valdez-Scantling. He's a solid receiver, but those two combined don't, in theory, replace the production of and the threat, the deep ball threat of a Tyreek Hill. Just doesn't.
You brought in a tip top star, but you had the cheetah. That's all he is. He's a tip top star.
Exactly. So I'm saying all of that to say, the Bills have now cemented themselves as the leader on paper and otherwise until someone shows it different. Yes, they have to prove it again because it's only the 1 year. But I think that 1 year was enough for them psychologically and as a franchise to say, no, we're good enough not only to win, but to you know, win our division and possibly win this whole thing. So they're swinging for the fences.
Right.
And they didn't have to do too much, but they did just enough to put themselves as the class of the AFC East. So that's
I did have the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl last year. Well, being the representative for the AFC to win the Super Bowl last year. It didn't work, but definitely, like you said, the rich did get richer. They didn't make a lot of moves, but they made just enough to make themselves to give themselves a better chance moving forward. And I feel like the Bills is going to be another one of them teams that's going to find themselves in the thick of things, and we're going to look back and be like, man, they made some solid moves. But I definitely still say the Chargers made some tremendous moves. I know I changed your mind. I know I changed your mind because you weren't even thinking about the Chargers. Now you're gonna be like, you know what?
No, to be honest, I'm not gonna lie. The first move that did it for me was when they got Khalil Mack. I was like, oh, that's a big time move. Because the thing with Khalil Mack, once he got out of the Oakland, well, now the Vegas Raiders, it was like, all right, cool. He went for the bag. I'm not mad at it, but I don't feel like he was able to stay healthy enough to really continue to be the guy. And then also he was playing for teams that weren't competitive. They were mediocre at best. But now he's going into a situation similar to the way Von Miller when he left the Broncos, where he's not expected to be the guy defensively at all. Like I'm not mad at the pick, and I understand it because again, they're an up and coming team that has a very strong, DB, has a very strong defensive lineman, has some pieces and weapons on the offensive side, and they have a coach that's more defensive minded, but has a quarterback that can sling the rock. I get it. And he might be the piece that puts them over the hump. I'm not ready to pull the trigger and crown Herbert as the next coming yet. I need to see it.
That's my only question. That's my only question because I did say in our last episode, is Justin Herbert that guy? I need to see another year. I need to see another year where he actually puts together because when I judge quarterbacks, yeah, you can have that one good year, but what happens when these NFL teams start figuring you out? Can you overcome that? Can you get better? That's my only question with the Chargers.
In addition, I need to see him put his team in the playoffs because they didn't make the playoffs last year. I mean, all of this we're talking about, it's all theoretical. At least, like, for example, with a Jalen Hurts, he took a inferior team to the playoffs. And yes, he lost against superior competition, but it is what it is. Like, if there's a talent gap, there's a talent gap. That's not all on one player. But as the quarterback of a team, there was no reason why the Chargers weren't supposed to make the playoffs, and they didn't. So I need to see him, make it to the playoffs, and then we'll talk. Hence another reason why I picked the Bills, because Allen showed us what he could do. And going back to that, and this is my last point as far as the Bills are concerned, they also, I feel like, paid attention to the postseason and responded directly to that, because in that masterful game that they had against the Chiefs, where back and forth, part of the issue was they didn't have a strong enough, consistent pass rush to get Mahomes' ass off the field. Now you can't say that anymore. Lord have mercy. With those two, I mean, with Von Miller and
Gregory Rousseau.
Now you have a legitimate threat, because if you look at, for example, how Miller played in the Super Bowl, if it wasn't for Von Miller throughout the playoffs, I don't think the Rams would have even gotten to the Super Bowl, let alone because, I mean, yes, the greatest player in the NFL is Aaron Donald. That might be debatable, but not for me. But he gets triple teamed, and that frees up Von Miller. But then you would have to double Von Miller. Now you're running out of offensive linemen to do that, and that's freeing up other players like a Sebastian Joseph Day when he comes in to spell one of those guys. Now you have to account for all of that. I'm saying all that to say they have now a certifiable big piece on the board that offensive coordinators have to account for, teams have to scheme around. They didn't have that from the defensive line front. That was the one glaring thing in the playoffs for them, especially in that in that game against the Chiefs. Now they have addressed that.
Mm-hmm.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So I guess real quick, so we don't drown this topic out. Who are your two dark horse teams?
All right, I'll make this one quick. You're probably not gonna like this one from the NFC. It's that team from Louisiana, the Aints. Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of their moves, man. I'm not gonna lie. They got Honey Badger. Oh, come on back, come on back, come on back. Cause I mean, look, hey, and they brought in Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. He's going to, I think he's going to be a great addition. They're getting a lot of guys back from injury, like getting back. Even though a lot of this is theoretical, but again, Michael Thomas coming back is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Then getting Jarvis Landry is another big deal.
Right.
And then Chris Olave was an excellent player in college. I'm glad he's not playing for Ohio State anymore. Go Penn State. But he's going to be nice as a third option in that offense. And I do believe that Jameis Winston has enough in the tank to make them not just competitive, but actually to likely make the playoffs. And those are just some of the moves, like the bigger moves that they made. Now, in terms of the AFC, I'm going with the Vegas Raiders. Compare like piling Chandler Jones with Max Crosby is a big on the defensive end. In that division, it's needed, right? And then on top of it, to get Devontae Adams is another big deal. But it's likely that you might get all four of those teams to make the playoffs. But I do like the moves that the Vegas Raiders made, specifically those two moves. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay. What about you?
Okay, so the NFC side, I got to stick in that same division. I'm going my guys. I'm going my guys. The reason why,
okay,
I know a lot of people not going to understand this if you're a casual fan, but you have to be a football fan and understand what the Falcons was able to do in this offseason. When you look at it, so let's just go through it. You signed Casey Hayward. We already know that we struggled with pass coverage last year. You already had AJ Terrell, who was one of the top cornerbacks in the league. It's just that he couldn't travel, and also we couldn't play the style of defense that Dean Pease wants to play. He wants to be able to play a cover one defense. You can't play that if you ain't got no cornerbacks that can play man coverage, and you don't have a safety that can play the middle of the field. You have to have those. You bring in Casey Hayward, who's a dog, who has been known to be one of the elite cornerbacks in the league. Yes, he's kind of he's a little bit on the older side than the younger side, but he still has some years in him. You team him up with an AJ Terrell. Now AJ Terrell don't have to worry about that other side because he knows Casey Hayward is a veteran who's a dog. You also bring in Marcus Mariota, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Marcus Mariota because, like I said, I judge quarterbacks a little differently. But I do feel like Marcus Mariota is a solid player when you look at when he went to the Raiders. I mean, to come in when Derek Carr went down and to do what he was able to do, I think he's a solid backup in my opinion. But at the same time, after that first preseason game, he showed me something. He showed me that he's looking to take advantage of this second opportunity that he gets. He also played with Arthur Smith before when he was during his time in Tennessee, and Arthur Smith was the one who actually benched him. So at the end of the day, this is his second chance. I think he's a more wiser quarterback. I think he has shown improvement since his rookie season all the way into now. I think he has shown improvement. And I look at his situation. I think he's in a better situation than he has been in his whole career. When you look at those Tennessee Titans team before the Derrick Henry, this is before that. So I think he had. If he did have Derrick Henry, it was like beginning of his football career. And I forgot the other running back that they had. Really, no receivers like that I can remember. So. you bring him into you bring him into a better situation. He did in when he was in the Vegas Raiders, he was the backup, but he was being able to throw to Waller and Brian Edwards, who's another guy that the Atlanta Falcons brought in. But at the same time, he really didn't have the opportunity to show what he could do with the Las Vegas Raiders because their team was already pretty much constructed. He was just a solid backup. But you look at the acquisitions, Brian Edwards, who's a tall receiver. The Falcons got bigger this year. We used to struggle with size. When you look at last year, yes, we did have Matt Ryan, and y'all know how I feel about Matt Ryan. But last year we had Matt Ryan was throwing to a lot of Oompa Loompas. You had Olamide Zaccheaus. Russell Gage was gone for most of the season. When he finally came back, he had to be the man. And then you got Calvin Ridley, who out here betting on games and can't play. So he had to take a mental health time off, and it ended up being the whole season pretty much. And then now he's suspended for the rest of this season, so we don't know what Calvin Ridley was going to do. You didn't have a solid run game last year, but this year you made the run game a running back by committee team. That's what Arthur Smith wants to do. And then you brought in Cal. You definitely have Kyle Pitts, who he's throwing the ball to. But when you look at that receiving core, you got Brian Edwards. You have Brian Edwards. You brought in Geronimo Allison. You brought in Alden Tate. So you brought in some guys. I think our shortest receiver is 6'1", at the most 6'1". You know what I'm saying? But everybody else is 6'4" and above.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Drake London yet.
Oh, I'm about to get to him. I'm just talking about the free agency. Yeah, I'm just talking about the free agency. You brought in a left guard, a solid left guard, and Elijah Wilkinson, because we struggled at that position last year with Jalen Mayfield. You bring in Elijah Wilkinson, who looks like he's going to be the starting. He's going to be the starting left guard. So you're going to be able to protect Marcus Mariota and open up run gaps. And also, if you watch that first preseason game, the Falcons played on a different level that I have seen them play on in a while. So now you look more you look more explosive. You have a running back. You have a running back who can do some things. You have a good core of running backs, but then you also have a quarterback who can get out the pocket if need be. And then you brought in Rashaan Evans at the linebacker position. In the last game, he was a headhunter out there last game in the preseason. And then you brought in Lorenzo Carter. You brought him back home, who played at Georgia. Yeah, he haven't had that breakout season yet, but I definitely feel like this is his year to have that breakout season. And like I said, you drafted Drake London, number 8 overall, which was a great pickup for the Atlanta Falcons. He's 6'5". He was one of the best receivers in college football, not last year, but the year before that. He got hurt, so he was out the entire time last year. So I'm anxious to see where he's going to be able to do in the pros. But to me, Drake London was a good pickup for the Atlanta Falcons. And then you brought in Desmond Ridder, who I feel like is going to be our starting quarterback, because I watched a lot of film on Desmond Ridder and I like what I seen. And in his rookie debut in the preseason game, yeah, he did throw an interception and it got called back. But at the same time, I saw poise. I saw him being able to make a play when he needed to make the play. The last drive of the game to win that game, to get that touchdown, to throw it on the back shoulder when he saw that the cornerback was out of the play and the receiver to be able to come back for the ball and make the catch. To me, that just showed that he already has that IQ. He's already shown that he's a leader of this team. So I definitely feel like we got better in the draft. And, of course, we added some more draft talent, but these are the most notable to me as a fan. And then also you was able to re-sign Jake Matthews, Grady Jarrett, who I believe is the second best defensive tackle in the league. And then you got you brought back your kicker, your place kicker, who's the best kicker in the league, in my opinion, in Younghoe Koo. So I definitely feel like the Atlanta Falcons is one of them teams that's going to surprise a lot of people. Right now, a lot of people are down on the Falcons because they just like, man, we got worse. But if you're a football player, if you're a football fan, you'll enjoy what we actually did in this offseason, because we brought in some talent. It's just you're going to have to see it on the field when it all comes together. And then when you look at the AFC side, like I said, I'm going to always stick with my Indianapolis Colts, because they have always been a solid team, but you brought in a quarterback that a lot of people they underestimate. Matt Ryan has shown you over his whole career that he can make nothing into something. Like, yes, the Colts don't have the best receiving core, but what Matt Ryan has been able to do in his years in Atlanta, yes, he has had Julio Jones, Tony Gonzalez, but Roddy White was not Roddy White until Matt Ryan got there. Michael Vick had Roddy White. The years that we went without Matt Ryan, Roddy White was there. It's just that Matt Ryan made him into an elite receiver. And now when we look back at it, it's like, man, he was great. Matt Ryan had him. No, Matt Ryan made him into a great receiver. But he also have pushed a lot of guys beyond probably gave them the best time of their career. In a Taylor Gabriel, in a Mohamed Sanu. When you look at Harry Douglas, who became a 1,000-yard receiver without a Julio, without a Roddy White, he was pretty much our number one receiver that year, and Matt Ryan made him into a 1,000-yard receiver. He got that big check, and you ain't never heard from him since. Mohamed Sanu, who came from the Cincinnati Bengals, and then he came to the Atlanta Falcons. He became a household name. He go play with the GOAT. What happened? You never heard from that man since. Now he's just been on different teams. He's
journeyman now.
He's solid, but he's not. You don't think about him. And then, like I said, Matt Ryan made Austin Hooper into a great tight end. And then he got that money. You never really hear about Austin Hooper again. But at the same time, Matt Ryan has been able to make players play on a different level than they're used to. That's why Russell Gage was able to get all that money from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because he made Russell Gage. That's why Kyle Pitts became a 1,000-yard tight end last year, because he had nothing else, and pretty much he had to make Kyle Pitts step up. And so for me, Matt Ryan has always been able to do that throughout his whole career. And he's going to a team that has a solid offensive line, which he haven't very seldom had in his career. He has a defense that can at least stop somebody in the times that they need to make a stop. And then you add in Randy Gregory on that other side. You bring in a tight end, Eric Sauber. Now, Eric Sauber is solid to me, but Matt Ryan, watch what Matt Ryan does with Eric Sauber. And then I'm sorry, that was Why did I put trade for Russell Wilson? I think I had the Broncos at first, and so scratch all that I said about Randy Gregory and all that, because I think I had the Broncos. But Matt Ryan, when you bring in a Matt Ryan, he's going to make that team better. You have a solid run game. And I definitely feel like Matt Ryan, I know they drafted about 2 or 3 tight ends in this draft, because Matt Ryan, he loves his tight ends. And I guarantee he's going to make one of those tight ends become a 1,000-yard receiver.
They have Michael Pittman, so it's not like they're complete. Yes. It's not like the cupboard is completely bare in the receiving.
Yes. He has a solid receiver.
And I mean, Pittman had over 1,000 yards receiving with Wentz, or a lesser version of Wentz. So I can only imagine what Matt Ryan can do with a little more gas in the tank. And again, his job isn't to carry this offense on his back. His job is to essentially be a game manager, which is more his speed at this point in his career. He's savvy enough. He's a war-tested vet. And again, like, he has arguably the best running back in the league.
Yes.
Not named Derrick Henry. So, and like you said, the defense is solid enough. And in that division, that might be more than enough. So I'm not mad at the pick. I get it. I get it.
This is my dark horse. Like I said, a lot of people are high on, the AFC West moves. And I'm high on them too. But at the same time, it's a couple moves that are big stars. But and one of my reasons why I couldn't, and I love the Raiders. Like, if anybody know me, if I had another team that I can root for, it would be the Las Vegas Raiders. I became an Oakland Raiders fan back in like 2008. Like, I enjoyed those teams. But at the same time, I like what the Raiders did, but at the same time, is Davante Adams really that guy? We about to find out, because when you have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Aaron Rodgers, it's kind of easy to be that guy. But can you do that with a Derek Carr? That's what I want to see. I don't know that yet. I only seen him with Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. So do you feel the same way about Tyreek Hill?
I don't think Tyreek Hill's going. I think Tyreek Hill's going to regret the move to go to Miami. Yeah. Because when you got Mahomes can do way more. And you also got to remember, yes, Tyreek Hill was a big piece of that offense, but also Travis Kelce was probably more important than Tyreek Hill.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yes, I definitely feel like Tyreek is that guy. But at the same time, we about to find out. We're going to find out if you really that guy like you was in Kansas City.
I don't know. I feel like Davante Adams is that guy. And yes, is it a drop off going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr? Yes, but not as much as people think, because I think Derek Carr is one of those quarterbacks.
He's solid.
he's solid, but he's actually better than people give him credit for being.
I agree.
Similar to a Matt Ryan.
Yes.
I feel like people talk a lot of trash about Derek Carr, but he puts up numbers whether he has high talent on the receiving end or great offensive lines or not.
Yes.
And he was one injury several years ago from running away with the MVP.
Right.
That's not his fault. But even with that, he still puts up numbers year in and year out.
Yeah, of
I
course.
don't know. And people are forgetting, now you got Josh McDaniels over there, who is known for being a quarterback's coach.
Yeah.
That offense is going to fly, and he has the pieces. So, of course, Devontae Adams is going to be a critical piece, but it's not like he's the only piece because they have Darren Waller, they have Hunter Renfrow. Like, they have a solid offense. Josh Jacobs is poised for a bounce back season. Like, they have a solid team. So I don't know. I think to agree with your point, I do think out of the two, Tyreek Hill is going to regret his decision more because that drop off is way bigger.
Right. Because when you said going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr, but going from Patrick Mahomes to Tua,
exactly, that's a huge gap.
That's a huge jump.
Gap.
He can like I said, like I said, sometimes receivers can make quarterbacks, but sometimes receivers can't really make a quarterback that just ain't gonna be made. Like, I just don't feel like he's in a best situation. And then also, yes, you got a lot of speed on the outside. You got Tyreek on one side, you have Jalen Waller on the other side. But what happens when your quarterback ain't consistent getting that ball to you? Right. Because at the end of the day, yes, Tyreek has unmatched speed. But when the window was not there, and Patrick Mahomes still was able to make those throws, what happened now when Tua can't make those throws that Patrick Mahomes was able to make? Because Patrick Mahomes was making some spectacular plays that Tua is not capable of and never will be capable of. So I just don't feel like Tyreek is in a best situation. He should have just stayed with Kansas City. I get it. You want the money. I get it that Tyreek has made some bad, I guess, relationships in Kansas City, which was one of the reasons why Kansas City was willing to get up off of him. But at the same time, I think he's going to regret that decision going to Miami.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's definitely been a great first segment, man. We're gonna give y'all a little time to kind of get yourselves out there, shout yourselves out, let us know y'all in the building. I know we've been having some consistent, people watching us, so definitely let us know, man. Y'all be in the chat. We don't see y'all in the chat. We don't want y'all to just sit. We want you to listen to us, but we want you to also let us know you're in the building at least. You know what I'm saying? Shout yourself out before we move to this next transition. Like I said, we want to thank Ms. Bentu for the beautiful logo, man. Hope y'all like it. We plan to get some merchandise made, so look forward to in the future us having some some merchandise with our new logo on that thing. We definitely want to get that out there. But we just want to take this time to thank you guys again for supporting this new show called No Huddle with me and my boy Hassan, man. Definitely keep supporting Fan of Atlanta 365. Okay, we got some people in the building. We got Anthony Ray in the building. Shout out to Anthony Ray, man. He got his new little business. Shout out to Anthony Ray. He got his new business venture coming up, man. I be in tune, man. I be in tune with everybody. But shout out to Anthony Ray, bro, man. You doing it big. My twin, our birthday coming up. We got the same birthday, man. He been following me since day one, since I started off on Facebook when I was just practicing Fan of Atlanta 365, and he got to see my growth, continuous growth. So shout out to Anthony Ray. Hopefully we'll get to meet up this season. So let me give you a story about Anthony Ray. I'm in the hospital sick, bro. Like, I'm dog sick. A few months ago, I'm dog sick, bro. Got a mask on my face. I'm just slumped over. I ain't been online in a while to do no videos. And somebody just come up to me. I'm at the hospital at Wellstar. Somebody just come up to me. He was like, "Hey, man, don't I know you?" And I'm like, "I don't know who you are." He had a mask on too. So then he took the mask off, and I was like, "Oh, man, that's Anthony Ray." And so we was talking, chopping it up, man. Just real good brother, man. So shout out to you being in the building, man. He been following me since day one. So, like, he's a true fan, bro. We didn't exchange numbers. We talked on the side. We done met up at the training camp. He let me interview him. So shout out to my guy Anthony Ray, man.
That's love.
Yeah, who else we got in the building? Oh yeah, he said, "Good luck, fellas." My birthday brother. Oh yeah, it's going up this year, bro. I got to
Virgo season.
Yeah, Virgo season.
Virgo season coming up.
Pacific. Yeah. So shout out to Anthony Ray, man. If anybody else in the building, whether you viewing us live on Facebook, YouTube, you know what I'm saying, put something in the comment box. Let us know you here. We'll shout you out. But until then, we're gonna go ahead and transition to the next segment. You got anything you want to say or talk to the people? Anything you got before we move on?
Man, I'm excited about this next topic. I'm not even gonna lie, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's gonna be exciting. Definitely about to be exciting. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and transition to this second and this our last topic for the day. But definitely keep catching us live every Saturday during this season. Anthony Ray said I'll be tuned in on Saturdays. Oh yeah, definitely, man. Tune in every Saturday at 1:00. Me and my guy, we live, bro. If y'all want to come on the show and debate us, you're welcome to join the show. Also, if you want to come on and talk about what you got going on, like I know Anthony Ray got his new business coming up. Hey, we'll make some time for you to come out there, put your thing out there. You know what I'm saying? We all tuned in, but at the same time, I know we on a smaller platform because he does podcasting as well. He has his own podcast. But definitely, man, come on the show. Let us know what you got going on, and who knows, somebody may hear it. I don't know, but just support us, man, like y'all been doing. But yeah, we're gonna move on to this next topic. It's gonna be a good one. So this next topic is called "Who's on your NFL Mount Rushmore?" So as we know, when you talk about Mount Rushmore, it's the greatest of the greatest. It can't be no mediocre. Oh, I think he could potentially be this guy. Nah, it has to be who's right now your Mount Rushmore player of all time. So hey, I know a lot of people probably gonna want to chime in. So definitely put y'all picks in the comment box. Exactly. But we're gonna go ahead and kick it off. Right. I'm gonna let my guy expose who is on his top Mount Rushmore.
All right, now, yeah, this was a tough one. I'm not even gonna lie, because there are a couple of names I left off that I was like, I can't believe I left them off. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna start with my number 4 pick. It's the Minister of Defense, Reggie White. I picked him for a multitude of reasons. One, longevity. The man played pretty much 15 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. And essentially, the lion's share of his career was with the Eagles, but what he's most known for is being with the Packers. Mm-hmm. And he was arguably the best defensive player on both of those teams when they had multiple great players on those defenses, right? He's won a Super Bowl, and just looking at his stats, I mean, the man has 198 total sacks in over a 15-year career or so. Mm-hmm. That averages out to 13 sacks per season. Even now, he would be a Pro Bowler. He would probably be All-Pro.
Yes.
With those numbers.
Yes.
And you can argue that he was the reason where defenses started to transition from linebackers being a key defensive premium position to edge rushers being a premium position. In terms of, if you're going to pay for a player, you got quarterback number 1, then, probably DB number 2 or somewhere in there, but edge is probably in there. And that's within that top 3 highest paid, and then you probably have like an O lineman somewhere in that range. But he, I would argue, is the reason why if you're going to overpay a player, you're going to overpay an edge rusher, because they're critical to a defense now. Yes. Defenses no longer are built off of linebackers anymore. And I would say it's because of Reggie White. And this man retired in 98, sat out the 99 season, still came back and had 5.5 sacks for the Panthers. Like, who's doing that? You know what I mean?
Right. So that was pretty much like a down that's when he was on his downward slope.
When a decline averaging out an entire year as an edge rusher.
Mm.
You know, I mean, and then I looked at comparing him, for example, to somebody like Aaron Donald. Although that's not an apples to apples comparison because it's
different position.
It's different positions and it's consistently harder to get sacks.
Yes.
From a nose tackle, from a interior lineman spot. That's why guys like him, like Aaron Donald, Warren Sapp, are considered the greats of the greats at that position. But even with that, currently, Aaron Donald has been in the league 7 years, and he has about 98. So he's on a similar trajectory as, you know, as Reggie White, but at a harder position. But even with that, Reggie White is still number 2 all time in terms of sacks career.
Right.
And he stopped playing in 2000. 22 years, he's still at number 2. So
that's a solid pick. Before I give you my number 4, I'm gonna read a comment from Anthony Ray. He said, "I would love to chime in." Yeah, definitely, man. Let us know when you want to chime in. You know, we like to go ahead and already have our topics. Well, we got a lot of topics already planned out. We just kind of pick every week which 2 topics we're gonna discuss. So if you want to join us, if you say you want to join us, whatever week you want to join us, let us know, and we'll give us a week in advance so we can send you the topics that we're going to discuss, and then you'll have at least a week to get yourself prepared. So definitely, man, would love to have you on the show. Also, Anthony Ray said his top 4 Mount Rushmore players is number 4. He got Joe Montana. So we'll keep chiming you in on his 2 and 3 and 4. And but right now, number 4, he got Joe Montana as his number 4.
I'm not mad at it.
Mount Rushmore. Not a bad pick, but
I'm not mad at it.
Go ahead and tell you who number 4 is.
Okay.
Not who I say he is, who it is.
Oh, okay.
First of all, he the greatest cornerback of all time.
I already know.
And so imagine this. Let me go ahead and tell this to y'all. If my floor is Neon Deion Sanders, imagine what my ceiling gonna be. But we just gonna focus on the floor right now. We got to build a foundation of the house. You can't build a house from the ceiling up. You got to build it from the ground up. We got to go from the foundation up. So Deion Sanders, man, first of all, let's just look at the accolades. 2-time Super Bowl champion. He went from the San Francisco 49ers, and then the San Francisco 49ers had the advantage. Jerry Jones was like, "Hey man, we got to go get Deion to shut down this other side of the field because we can't defend Jerry Rice." So they bring him to the Dallas Cowboys, and the next year he won the Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys. So obviously he was the reason why both of those teams needed that one piece, and they both went for it. And he got the 2 Super Bowls. He started off with the Atlanta Falcons. We all know, if you're an Atlanta Falcon fan, I wasn't living in that time. I mean, I was living, but I wasn't focusing on football. I was a kid, so I didn't get to see Deion Sanders play, prime time play. But at the same time, for me to be able to see what he was able to do, and he's been out of the league since the 90s, or I think he played in the 2000s as well, early 2000s. But he was pretty much just a name at that time. Yeah. But at the end of the day, to know what he did for the Atlanta Falcons, he put the Atlanta Falcons single-handedly put the Atlanta Falcons on the map. He put the city on the map. This is before the Atlanta that y'all know today. This is when Atlanta was kind of like, we was still like the southern state, but at the same time, the southern city. But at the same time, people weren't really focusing on Atlanta. This is when the music is starting to kick off with MC Light and all them guys.
Something to say Atlanta. Yeah.
Exactly. So Deion is like the first player really to put the Atlanta Falcons on the national stage where people tuned in. People was coming to the game just to watch the Atlanta Falcons and watch and see what Deion Sanders was going to do. Not only was he a cornerback, he was the most versatile player probably of all time. This man was running back kicks, running back punts, shutting down your top receiver, shutting down the whole field by himself. And he'll run a kickoff back, and then later on that night go hit a home run for the Atlanta Braves. Okay. Come on, man. To me, it's just unfair. Also, he was an NFL Defensive Player of the Year in '94. He was drafted in '89 by the Atlanta Falcons. He's a 6-time first team All Pro. He's a 2-time second team All Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler. Pretty much dominated in the '90s. He's on the All '90s Decade Team, and he's on the 100th anniversary all-time team, of course. But to me, my reasons why he's a GOAT of the cornerbacks. When you think of cornerbacks, it's almost like how you think of basketball when you think of Michael Jordan. Everybody wants to be the next Michael Jordan, right? When you look at cornerback, when you wear the number 21, we all know that you better be the next Deion Sanders. You can't wear number 21 if you ain't that guy. Deion Sanders made that number into what we recognize it in basketball today, just like Michael Jordan made the number 23. If you're gonna wear number 23, you better be that guy in basketball. Same thing with Deion Sanders. Also, what made me really look deep into this, he shut down some Hall of Fame wide receivers. You got to look at Jerry Rice, the GOAT of wide receivers. Michael Irvin, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens. Like, he went against these guys, and he was always traveling. So whoever the number one guy was, I don't care if you was in the slot, I don't care if you was on the outside. At the end of the day, you got Deion Sanders on you all night, and he was not going. He pretty much you weren't gonna get no passes thrown to you. It was almost like he was taking the game off. So, like I said, not only did he shut down receivers, he made a lot of Hall of Famer quarterbacks shook. Joe Montana, Steve Young, Troy Aikman, Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, John Elway, Brett Favre, all these quarterbacks that played during his era that they knew you don't throw it on that side. Or whatever side Deion Sanders on, you don't throw it to that side, you throw it to the other side. So at the end of the day, to be able to shut down those elite wide receivers who are considered some of the greatest receivers of all time, and also to be able to scare the Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And one thing that stands out to me as well in that era, in today's time, normally you'll have a top receiver, but you may not have a top quarterback, or you'll have a top quarterback, but you may not have an elite receiver, or you may only have one elite receiver. He was during a time where you had Hall of Fame quarterbacks and you had elite receivers, and sometimes your number 2 receiver was still a Hall of Famer as well. You look at Chris Carter and Randy Moss together. So at the end of the day, man, Jerry Rice and T.O., like at the end of the day, Deion Sanders had to go in every week, and he had to be Deion Sanders. Also, like I said, the greatest athlete of all time. One story I always think of is how he showed up to the combine. Wasn't even prepared, then stretched. That he probably wasn't even going to perform in the combine. This is when the draft really wasn't a big deal. But at the same time, this man showed up with sweats on, maybe tennis shoes on, and ran a 4.27, bro. A 4.27. It's something like
just chilling. It's something light.
That's light, bro. Like that's light. You know. Cold. Imagine if he had the training that they have today.
Seriously.
And also imagine if he showed up with the intentions to do the scouting combine. Imagine what he would have ran, man. So that to me, that's athleticism. And last point, like I said, he was a versatile player. We know him as a shutdown cornerback, but he also was the greatest return man specialist of all time until Devin Hester recently in the last few years. He was able to do it in Atlanta. He took over that record. But at the same time, Deion Sanders was the greatest for a long time. That's a long time to have that record. And so for me, that's my number 4 guy. And just to go over a quick little stat, 53 interceptions in his career, 22 touchdowns. That's returning interceptions to returning kicks. 22 in his whole career, man. So that's my foundation.
I'm not mad at it.
That's the foundation.
See, that's why this was so tough, because you're going to leave off people who are more than deserving. And hearing the name, it's like, I didn't put him number 4. I mean, spoiler alert, he's not on my list, but it's like, oh my God.
The go to cornerback. He changed the game. He changed the game. He made everybody want to wear the do-rag, have the Deion Sanders shoes on.
And then even the must be the money. Like,
yes. I mean, come on, man. He had the chains on, the Jerry curl. He always said it looked wet, but it was dry. Like, come on, man. Like the man did his thing on the field and did his thing off the field, and still to this day, he's still considered the greatest cornerback of all time. Exactly. He's out there at Jackson State coaching them boys up. They winning championships. Like, come on, man. Like, what else? Is it Jackson State? Did I say it right? Jackson State?
Nah, I think you're right. Jackson State.
I think, yeah. But at the end of the day, man, we know it. We know what this man is about, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's tough, man. Yikes.
Yeah. So, all right, number 2. You want to go? Or you want me to bring in some more 5? Let me know.
We'd be skipping number 3. That was your number 4.
My bad, number 3. I feel you. Dion can be number 1, number 2, and number 3, and number 4.
You can be it all. I feel that. So my number 3, I can't skip him. I got it. So
before you go,
all right, no, what's up?
Sorry for cutting you off.
No, you good.
Anthony Ray, number 3 is Barry Sanders.
Ooh,
Barry Sanders. He also said deal. I guess he was saying he wanted, one day he gonna join the show, and then he also said Deion Sanders ran a 4.27 and ran out the building. Literally, word is he caught the cab once he finished. So, like I said, he wasn't even planning to stay for the combine. I don't even think he had plans to even run. They were just like, "Hey, Deion, you want to put it on tape?" Yeah, all right. All right. Let me take these sweats off real fast and show y'all.
He's Boobie Miles if Boobie Miles never got injured.
Yeah.
And went to the NFL.
Yes.
But he's a real person.
He's really like what's the guy Usain Bolt before Usain Bolt?
Oh
really?
Like he's
the Usain Bolt of the NFL. Like, I mean, Tyreek, yes, we understand his speed is unmatched, but imagine the difficulty to be able to run backwards. Because as a cornerback, you're not running forward every time. You're running backwards, having to stick with guys.
Right.
I mean, to me, that
you gotta be able to move at the drop of a dime and cut. And
yes.
And the other thing about it is he was the top guy back when there were a lot of great corners.
A lot of shutdowns.
Rod Woodson, Aeneas Green, Gerald. What was the guy off of they're now the Commanders. Last name is Green.
Sean Green.
Yes.
Oh, no. What's his name?
Daryl.
I pulled him up.
Daryl Green.
Daryl Green. Because I actually included that in my notes, but I think I only wrote it down. I never put it on. I never put it on here. Yeah, I was saying he was a top cornerback with all these other great shutdown corners.
Right. And he was the guy like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna transition to my number 3 because this guy is cold. Even though Barry Sanders, I'm mad that I didn't put him on my list.
Yeah, put him on my list either.
But I look, LT is my number 3 on my Mount Rushmore. For those who don't know, I am not talking about LaDainian Tomlinson, even though he is a great running back. I'm talking about the OG LT. If you're unsure who that is, Google LT. Lawrence Taylor had to be on my list for a multitude of reasons. Mm-hmm. Not because of the stuff he did off the field, solely because of the stuff that he did on the field. Mm-hmm. This man was the best defensive player on 2 Super Bowl winning teams with Hall of Fame defenders that weren't just him. Just to go over his career stats, I mean, he only played, I think, for 13 seasons, and he had 142 sacks. 10-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champ. He was the NFL MVP in '86, and I believe he's the last defensive player to have been MVP.
Yes.
He essentially revolutionized the way linebackers were considered.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to him, you had the Dick Butkuses of the, and guys like that, the Richard Dents, who were solely tackling machines.
Yes.
Racking up tackles. And he could tackle too. But he revolutionized the game being a tweener where he could get to the quarterback like nobody's business. And he still has the record. I'm sorry, he's number 2 in single season sacks for a season.
Yes.
And that was in place for almost 20 some odd years before
somebody broke it, right?
Yeah, Michael Strahan broke it.
But I think somebody broke it after him. Was it TJ Watt?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. TJ Watt.
I want to say TJ Watt. It was TJ Watt
you're
or
right.
Miles Garrett or somebody like that.
So, but him putting up a 20 sack season was unheard of. Unheard of, because he's doing this in the 80s.
Yes.
And this is back when it's easier to do it now, in my opinion. It's more straightforward to do it now because it's a more pass happy league. But back then it was a run first league. So you didn't get as many opportunities to get to the quarterback because they were already handing it off.
Yes.
And he still put up a 20 sack season in the 80s. And he was arguably the best or the greatest defender ever. And those aren't my words. And he also made Bill Belichick into a key defensive coordinator. And Bill Belichick was able to turn that into a head coaching career off of LT. Who Belichick has said till this day is the best player he's ever coached. And that's the man that's coached Randy Moss, has in his prime, has coached Tom Brady in his prime, Ty Law, Richard Seymour, who is now a Hall of Famer. So the man knows football. He knows football talent. He's coached Gronkowski, but he still said his best player ever coached, LT, Lawrence Taylor. Had it not been for, his demons off the field and some of his antics off the field, he could have played for a lot longer.
Right.
LT is my number 3.
My number 3 is different.
And that's fine. I love it. I'm here for it.
LT is higher on my list.
Okay, I'm not mad at it.
So should I just talk about LT?
Hey,
or should I should I just focus on the number 3 and then get the LT whenever it's time to get the LT?
Hey man, you whatever feels natural to you. However the spirit moves you.
Okay, well let me tell you who the number 3 is on my shout out to my guy, Brian Bush, for joining us live from cool.
Hey,
I don't even want to give out the man coordinates. He joined us live from overseas, man. Like I said, that's my brother, man. Shout out to him. J&B, the Talk of the Dirty South show, will resume hopefully next year. If my guy come back and he wanna continue that thing on. One of my true best friends in my life is that guy, man. So shout out to him for joining us live from overseas, thousands of miles away. He actually chimed in. He said his number 4 is Jim Brown, and his number 3 is Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor is his number 3. Anthony Ray said his number 3 is Barry Sanders. Well, I already said Barry Sanders. So, I'm just keeping them up, with the speed of where we at. So
all great choices.
I'm just gonna tell you who my number 3 is. I get the LT when it's appropriate. I definitely address that. But my number 3 is the greatest quarterback of all time, and it's Tom freaking Brady. Now, I know you don't like Tom Brady a lot of times because he was in that Patriots uniform for most of his career. But to see what this man have been able to do and is still doing, to me, you Mount Rushmore. You're the greatest quarterback of all time. Not saying you're my favorite quarterback of all time, because my favorite is Peyton Manning. But you're the greatest quarterback of all time and still counting. So let's just go back. Let's just go back to see, what Tom Brady, have been through in his career. First of all, he was drafted in 2000, round 6, pick 199. The quarterbacks that was in front of him, Chad Pennington, who got drafted to the New York Jets. I'm sorry. Giovanni Carmazzi, who went to the San Francisco 49ers. We don't even know who that is. Chris Redman, solid backup, played with the Atlanta Falcons, but got drafted to Baltimore. Yeah, Jeramy quarterback got drafted to the Baltimore Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
T. Martin, I don't know who that is. Got drafted.
I remember him. Yeah, who?
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Mark Bolger. Played with the San Francisco for I'm sorry, the St. Louis Rams when they had, but Kurt Warner was the guy. Mark Bolger was his backup, and then eventually he took over. Yeah. Solid quarterback. Yeah. And then you had Spurgeon Wynn.
Yeah, I remember him. He was another just journeyman backup third string quarterback. Yeah,
I don't even remember that, man.
I remember him barely.
The Browns did some more brownish things. They went out there and drafted the wrong guy, and now you got Tom Brady who came in the 6th round. Now, we all understand that hindsight is always 20/20. You never know how someone's career is going to pan out. They can be great in college and then get to the pros, and you never hear from them. I.e. Tim Tebow, Johnny Manziel. Even if you want to look at recently, Kyler Murray. Who else was great in college? Baker Mayfield.
Kyler
Murray slander. I'm gonna bring y'all into what I be thinking that a lot of people don't think. Y'all don't. I'm gonna say what I gotta say, because at the end of the day,
I'll get talk
until they prove me wrong. I'm gonna keep talking it. So at the end of the day, Tom, you never know how someone's gonna turn out in the NFL. There has been players who went undrafted or went into the 7th round or those late rounds and then became the greatest at their position. So Tom Brady is just an example of somebody being who's under scouted or whatever it is, or maybe he just wasn't as talented as those other quarterbacks at that time. And then you learn over time, like, dang, Tom Brady was the pick. We all know the horrific scouting combine he had. So he just didn't look like the Nets. He didn't look like how his career turned out. We all know that. Yeah. But 22 years and counting.
Yep, and counting.
Played in different decades. So he wasn't always in the decade where quarterbacks are protected, although a lot of these protection rules came from him. So he definitely changed the game. Yeah. But 7-time Super Bowl champion. Yeah. Could have won more.
10 tries.
Could have lost some more too, because he should have lost against my Falcons. He should have lost against some Seattle Seahawks when they should have gave the ball to beast mode. Yeah. And he probably should have lost a couple of them games where what's his name, the greatest kicker of all time, bailed him out. Adam Vinatieri. So yeah, he could have lost a lot more Super Bowls, but he also should have won a lot more Super Bowls as well. And he did win a lot of Super Bowls. I think he's the most Super Bowl winningest player of all time, and probably allowed the New England Patriots. Well, do the Steelers still have the most rings of all time as an organization? I think they had.
I want to say they still have the most.
Yeah, I think they still have the most. But Tom Brady single-handedly put a team in the second place, if not first place. You know what I'm saying, or tied for first place. Yeah. And made Bill Belichick, another player that made Bill Belichick as a great mastermind, a great coach. Took over after Drew Bledsoe got hurt, and Drew Bledsoe never seen the starting role ever since. Nope. So that's great. 5-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, NFL Comeback Player of the Year in 2009, and his comeback was more of like, did he really come back? Because when you say comeback player, it's like they had a bad season last year and then they come back the next year. I think he got suspended due to the deflate gate or whatever it is, a spy gate, and then came back the next year after his suspension and just put up him great numbers. 3-time first team All Pro, 3-time second team All Pro, 15 Pro Bowls, 5th in NFL touchdown leaders. He led the league in touchdowns for 5 years, led the league in passing yards 4 years, led the league in passing rating, QBR for 2 years, NFL completion leader, percentage leader, 2010 all decade team, NFL 100th anniversary all-time team, of course, dominate all 2000s any New England Patriots teams, 2010s. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, like it makes your head hurt.
I would hate to see who. You know how you when you're trying to introduce somebody as a guest speaker and you have to kind of go over all their accolades. man, I would hate to be that person and have to go through all that with Tom
Seriously.
Brady. So my reasons why Tom Brady is on my Mount Rushmore, not only his what he was able to do, but longevity is unmatched. 22 years in the NFL playing that position. Now we do know Tom Brady get protected a lot, but at the same time, it ain't too many quarterbacks that can even say they lasted 13 years, let alone 22 and counting. 22 and counting, and he hasn't slowed down.
Yeah, exactly.
He hasn't slowed down.
It's one thing to last that long. It's another to perform at the highest of levels.
Still be considered going into the season. We still got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as one of the teams to go to the Super Bowl. Come on, man. Like that's unmatched. Arguably, in my opinion, the argument it's no argument, but he's the greatest quarterback of all time. And look at the era that he played in. Look at the quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, Eli Manning. I even said my boy Matt Ryan because I'm a Matt Ryan fan.
Phillip Rivers. You throw him in there. Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers. Like, come on, man. Like those are some Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Not to mention, you got to remember Rich Gannon was
awesome journeyman. Rich Gannon.
Yeah, but he was an NFL MVP. You gotta remember
Culpepper. All those guys who had some elite.
Was still in his prime.
Kurt Warner. I forgot about Kurt Warner.
Yeah,
Brett Favre was still
during that era.
Yeah, so I mean, this man played, and he at that time he was still considered the greatest at that, the best quarterbacks of that time. And last, one with limited talent. Like if anybody can make nothing into something, yes, we all know Rob Gronkowski. We all know Aaron Hernandez before he got in trouble. We also know he had Randy Moss. But at the same time, this man made Julian Edelman. He made Wes Welker. Deion Branch went to several teams, and then he had to end up coming back to play with Tom Brady. Brandon Lloyd. Like it's been some guys that Tom Brady has made. And they go to other teams and you don't hear from them. But now, I mean, come on, man, this man have turned nothing into something. He the only quarterback I know that had all these white guys at receiver and was dominating with them. Like when have you seen a team with just all white guys at receiver and still be winning Super Bowls? Like
in our generation, you're right.
It don't happen like that. It doesn't happen like that. So come on, man. The man is arguably. So let's look at the stats. Passing yards, 84,520 yards and counting. Right. I don't think nobody gonna come close to that. No, I mean, Drew Brees was great, but Drew Brees even had to slow down.
Yeah, I don't think he's out the game now. Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long time for that record to even get touched. And it's still counting. Also 624 touchdowns,
and
203 interceptions, but for a 22 year, that come on, man. So
the average is out to like maybe 10.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I mean, Tampa Bay is also coming into the season. A lot of people got them going to the Super Bowl again. So that's my number 3. Brian Bush, he said, my brother. Of course, bro. We bros for life, man. But so that's my number 3, man. So number 2.
That's my number 2, Tom Brady.
Number 2. And guess who my number 2 is?
LT.
Yeah. So I guess if you have anything you want to expound on when it comes to Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, so for me, because I'm a Rams fan and because I root for the Eagles, so a little bit, Marshall Faulk is my favorite player of all time. He's the reason why I watch football. And I will never like Tom Brady because I feel like he and his Patriots teams stole a Super Bowl away from my all-time favorite player.
Right.
He's the reason why Marshall Faulk does not have 2 Super Bowls and only has 1. They were 2 touchdown favorites. The Rams were the greatest show on turf. Rams were in that Super Bowl that propelled his championship run. So I'll always have a healthy level of hate for him, but you can't deny greatness. And yes, everything you said, all of the accolades, but it's another thing to do all of this And he did this, the prime of his career, he did this with journeymen as wideouts. He did it with, like, sometimes he had defensive players playing wideout, and when he got talented wide receivers, you saw what he did with it. I mean, there was a season where he put up, I think, 49 touchdowns and then went back another season, put up 50. Yeah, it's like, I mean,
almost went undefeated.
Yeah, it's ridiculous numbers. And had it not been for a historic catch made by a Giants team one year, and then excellent defensive plays, the man could have been what, 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10? Come on, man. I mean, yes, there are times where Vinatieri had to bail out the team, but it wasn't because of what he did on the field. There's very rare that you see a quarterback and he not be the and he not make mistakes that take you out of a game. I mean, it's very rare that you'll see Tom Brady in a situation where he throws a pick that costs them the game. Yeah, he might throw a pick, all right, but it won't be the reason that they lose the game. I mean, and the tuck rule being because of him. And just
probably would never went to that. Probably would never went to one of them Super Bowls if it weren't for that tuck rule.
This is true too. But and also to see his stature as the guy, right? There were times where he was consistently considered that guy. When you had a Peyton Manning, when you had an Aaron Rodgers, when you had a Drew Brees in their prime, and you're still the guy. And you're putting up the stats and you're winning championships. Many times they weren't synonymous. Many times you get a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but he wasn't putting up he wasn't the statistical leader in his category. So, I mean, he was able to win the two.
Had a lot of players around them that made them better, or they had an elite defense where they can rely on. So, I mean, it's unmatched, bro. It's unmatched. But yeah, definitely, man. Tom Brady, I mean, he was feared. He was feared his whole career because when you played the Patriots, if you saw the Patriots on your schedule, might as well make that an L. And the thing about the Patriots, they was like that. Like I said, they was that San Antonio Spurs of the NFL.
Oh yeah,
nobody tuned in to watch the Patriots like that. Like even in that prime, nobody, unless you from that region or unless you were going against them. That's the only way you was tuning in. It was like the average fan was like, oh, I got a chance to watch the New England Patriots, or I could watch the greatest team on turf. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the Rams. Like it wasn't a team that you're thinking about like that until when they got to the playoffs. Then you got to see, oh yeah, man, they've been running the NFL the whole time. And like going back to what you said about Bill Belichick, when they go and draft, they don't bring in those splash players. They bring in dudes who you never even heard of sometimes, and then they say they become stars or they become key franchise players for that organization. And Tom Brady single-handedly put the New England Patriots on the map.
And before he made it easier for them to do that.
Yeah, before that, I mean, you had Drew Bledsoe. They did go to the Super Bowl against the Chicago Bears in '85 when the Chicago Bears just whooped them. But before that, like Tom Brady was the reason why we look at the Patriots as an organization.
Oh, absolutely.
We pay attention to that organization, and that's because of Tom Brady.
Absolutely. Yeah, so he, in my opinion, he is to the Patriots franchise what Jordan was to the Bulls.
The Chicago Bulls.
He took them from obscurity and middle mediocrity to being a legacy franchise.
Yes. So, you can't talk about the NFL without the New England Patriots in the 2000s.
Yeah, 25 years ago you could. They were in Africa.
Right. Even now, Tom Brady still his what he's been able to accomplish. We still see the Patriots as a team. Like you never know what them Patriots can do.
Right.
Like, we still don't look at that team as like, oh, they ain't got Tom Brady no more. They done. We still look at them as, I mean. Now, granted, they still have Bill Belichick, who's to me the greatest coach of all time, or if not one of them. But at the same time, we still respect the Patriots organization. We hate them because they won so much, but at the same time, we respect them. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. Before I go deeper into Lawrence Taylor, I want to expose my guy Bush and Anthony Ray's number 2 pick. So Anthony Ray said Deion Sanders is his number 2. And Bush actually had Barry Sanders as his number 2.
Not mad
So
at him.
so moving forward back, I guess expounding a little bit more on Lawrence Taylor. I looked at the man was drafted in 81, right?
Right.
First round, second pick overall to the New York Giants. He went behind George Rogers, running back for New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
George Rogers, I looked him up. He was a solid Pro Bowler, but he wasn't like number one pick wise. It was a bad, horrific pick. And Lawrence Taylor just, I mean, dang, that 81 draft was crazy too. So he played with the Giants from 81 to 93, 2 Super Bowl rings. NFL MVP, like you said, it ain't too many defensive players that ever win MVP. And I think he was probably the first. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, 8-time First Team All-Pro, 2-time Second Team All-Pro, 10 Pro Bowls, led the NFL in sack. I think he still leads the NFL with 86 sacks. 1980s All-Decade Team, 75th Anniversary Team, 100th all-time anniversary team as well. So my reasons why I chose him as well, he was actually going to be clear my number one, but then that was a guy that I was like, you know what, I can't even put him over him. But he made single-handedly, LT made 2 positions popular. He made the outside linebacker popular because at that time, if you wasn't a middle linebacker, you wasn't the man. Like you said, you had your Jack Lamberts and your Richard Dents and all them good guys.
Singletary and all of them,
who stuffed that middle up, but you didn't have no pass rushing linebacker at that time.
No.
And this was also, like you said, during a time where run game, it was a running game, it was a running league. And for him to still be able to rack up those sacks and rack up tackles, come on, man. He also single-handedly made the left tackle position one of the most highest paid and most important positions on the offensive side of the ball. We all are reminded of that night of
Joe Theismann or the Blind Side movie. Yep.
Exactly. And we saw what that man did to that man fibula and tibia. It was crazy. It was horrific. But at the same time, you couldn't block this man. He was unblockable. And so that moves me to my next point. He was the most feared player of all time. When you feared this man because he was so dangerous, bro. Like when you look at the way he got to you,
he was the most dangerous. I'll give you the most dangerous.
When he hit you, he ain't just coming to lay you on the ground. He's trying to take your head off.
Crushing hits.
Yes, he's trying to take your head off. So he was the most feared player. Now, to me, Ray Lewis was one of them players. You feared Ray Lewis. There's a lot of great players where you fear when you didn't want to make contact with them guys because you feared them guys. But he was the most feared in my opinion. And then also he dominated the league when the league was a physical game, when the league was a physical, time where defenses could do anything. Like nowadays, the offense has the more advantage, and they're trying to take the physicality, I think, out of the game to make it more safer. But at the same time, this is a time where the defensive players, you were big, you were physical, and on the offense side of the ball, you had to be able to take a hit because it didn't matter if you got head-on-head contact. They could clothesline you. They could body slam you on your head. It didn't matter. So Lawrence Taylor played during a time where you could be physical, and he was the most physical. So in my opinion, Lawrence Taylor is my number 2. Also the stats, 1,089 tackles, 142 sacks, 54 forced fumbles, and 9 interceptions. To me, the greatest defensive player of all time. I know you probably gonna feel a little different.
No, that's why I had him and Reggie White. Those to me, those two, and then Dion. Those are my top 3 defensive players of all time.
Yeah, because I just feel like a lot of times they try to say, "Oh, is Aaron Donald the greatest defensive player of all time?" Arguably, yes, you could make an argument. But at the same time, I can't even say Aaron Donald was better than Warren Sapp. The reason why?
I can.
The reason why? Name a offensive lineman that Aaron Donald had to go against that was elite.
You mean look, Joe Thomas? Let's see. There's a bunch.
Joe Thomas played on the outside. He was a tackle.
That's true.
He was a tackle. We talking about in the inside.
I'm gonna have to think on that.
Yeah,
but for me, I get that and I respect that. But for me, I look at the fact that he's on the interior.
Yes, of course.
I look at that. And I look at that because it's easier to double and triple team him. And he gets doubled and triple teamed exponentially more than any other player. And he's still able to put up double-digit sacks.
Of course.
And
that's what I'm saying. You can definitely
hand in the dirt linebacker.
Right.
I mean,
and that's exactly why I say you could definitely make the argument that he's the greatest defensive player
his
of all
career
time.
isn't over.
It's not over. It's not over. And at the same time, like I said, it's two different eras. Whereas, like back in the time when LT was playing, like it was physical.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And now granted, the defensive side of the ball does get penalized more than the offensive side of the ball because there's so much stuff you cannot do. But at the same time, imagine if LT or Reggie White or Deion Sanders played in this era.
Oh yeah. It'd be tougher. It'd be tougher, in my opinion, for Deion because it's pass happy and there's so much they can't do anymore in terms of bump and run coverage and things like that. But I think
Deion wasn't the most physical when it came to cornerback. Like he was bump and run, but he was trying to bait quarterbacks.
Absolutely
in this direction. So I think he could make it in today's game.
He absolutely could, but I just feel like it would be harder for him because of the way calls are being against, like defenders and corners and all of that. But I do think LT and I do think Reggie White would still be putting up.
LT would be too dangerous. He would be too dangerous for this.
Yeah.
LT he'll probably get banned out of the league after a while. So okay, you were too
can translate.
Yeah, he's pretty much like the Ndamukong Suh without making illegal tackles.
Right.
Because Ndamukong Suh was like a beast. Like people forget about what Ndamukong Suh was able to do, but he was feared because he was so physical.
Right, he was a bully.
LT was kind of like as physical. He was more physical than Ndamukong Suh, and if he played during this time, he would pretty much be quarterbacks would be fearing him.
But think about who we're comparing him to. Like LT, his playing weight, he was like 6'2", 235 to 240. And Ndamukong Suh is like 6'5", 3 something, like 320.
Right.
Reggie White was like 6'5", almost 300 pounds. And we're comparing him to a tweener. Like a tweener.
Right.
And saying like he's the most dangerous defender or defensive player ever.
Yes.
And that again, it scores why LT is who he is.
Yes.
So since we're through most of the list, I looked at it in terms of who easily that I have to put on the list where there was little to no competition. And like LT had some competition because you can argue about, some of the guys from back in the day, like a Jack Youngblood or, the defensive linemen on the Purple People Eaters from the 70s. There are guys who were no joke, right?
Yes.
But when you look at a guy like a Tom Brady, his only real competition is, maybe, gosh, I just forgot the quarterback's name, which is crazy because he was Montana. Maybe Montana, maybe Peyton Manning. That's it. And one could argue that you're stretching Peyton Manning because of the Super Bowls. But they do have in common that they won a Super Bowl with a different team. And they've won for the AFC and the NFC. But, I mean, Peyton Manning
Peyton Manning only played in the AFC. Because Broncos.
Right, my apologies. Right. So then you can dismiss that. So he's the only one. Brady is the only one to have won on both conferences, right? And again, he won with a totally different team, totally different coach. That was what solidified it for me for Brady. But yeah.
To me, Joe Montana is the second greatest quarterback of all time because he was able to put up numbers. He had the talent, but at the same time, 4 Super Bowls, won all 4 of them.
Yep, exactly.
Never lost. You know what I'm saying? That's the same thing with Jordan. Six championships. Bill Russell and all them got more. But Jordan got 6 of them things, undefeated, never went to a game 7, and still did what he did. We knew he was the greatest in his time that he played. If you exclude the 80s, because in the 80s, yes, he was a great player, but you had greater teams than the player. You had Larry Bird and Robert Parrish and all those good guys, and then you had Lakers with the Showtime Lakers. So and then you had the Detroit Pistons with the Bad Boys. Like you had better teams. Jordan was the better player, but you had better teams. When you look at them 90s, Jordan ran the 90s. People feared him. People feared the Chicago Bulls. He ran the 90s, and if it wasn't for him retiring and leaving the game, he probably would have had 10 rings. He would have had all the rings in the 90s. Absolutely. The only way the Houston Rockets got them 2 rings is because Jordan
he sat out. And he revolutionized the game. He took it from the bigs, building a team through the bigs and turning it to a ball dominant, above the rim guard.
Yep. And at that time, only 6'6" wasn't really that big compared to them inside. And he learned I got to lift weights, got to get in the gym because they had the Jordan rule. There was so many things, so many tactics to try to slow down Jordan, and you still couldn't stop him. So, but that's to me, LT, Tom Brady, definitely like they both had. It's no brainer. So I'm anxious to see what your number 1 is, man.
This person, as soon as I saw the question, his name popped in. And had it not, if there wasn't a Tom Brady, if there wasn't a Montana, if there wasn't an LT, he would arguably be the greatest player, and a Jim Brown. Got to shout out Jim Brown. Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice is my number 1. And the reason for it,
we both agree.
Oh, well, there it is. I mean, I wasn't surprised that we agreed on that. I mean, who else are you picking? Jerry Rice was so dominant at his position that the number 2 person, it still feels disrespectful to compare him to him.
Right.
And you can pick whoever your number 2 is, whether it's Randy Moss, whether it's T.O., whomever your number 2 is. It still feels disrespectful to compare him to Jerry Rice.
Yes.
Whereas, it's not disrespectful to compare Montana to Brady. It's not disrespectful to compare Lawrence Taylor to, I don't know, any other defensive, off-ball linebacker or edge rusher. It's not disrespectful. But it feels like, it's like, yeah, but nah. Even Larry Fitzgerald, and these are talented, all-time great wideouts, and none of them are holding his jockstrap. I mean, look, the guy, even he retired in I think 2003, somewhere in there, or it might have been 2000. Let me look it up really quick.
I know it was in the 2000s.
2004. So he retired in 2004. He still is the all-time reception yards, reception touchdowns, and receptions leader. Period.
Yep.
And he's still number 2 in total yards in a season, receiving yards in a season. And he's still, I think, in the top 3 in all time in touchdowns in a single season as a receiver. Still, in a league that has had Calvin Johnson, that has had Randy Moss, T.O., Marvin Harrison, doesn't matter. It's like you can be showing few things: death taxes and Jerry Rice is the GOAT wide receiver. It's almost like you can set your clock to him.
Yeah.
And even with the league becoming, and that's the thing that makes it more amazing. He did this when the league was not a passing league. For God's sakes.
Yes.
He was the number one option on virtually every team, every season. And yes, some will argue, well, he played with 2 Hall of Famers. Okay, there are other quarterbacks who've done that, but they've not put up those type of numbers. Right?
I also seen him take the Raiders to the Super Bowl with Rich Gannon.
In his 40s. He's putting up 1,000-yard reception seasons in his 40s. Come on, man. When the number 2 option on those Raiders teams is Tim Brown, who is another Hall of Famer. And there's a clear difference as who is the alpha male in the receiving team or in the receiving group. Come on, man. I mean, one could argue that Montana made Jerry Rice, but very few people will say that. Very few people will say that. They'll say it was a symbiotic relationship. They relied on each other. They needed each other.
Right.
But I can't think of another quarterback to receiver tandem that was more feared. And that's including Tom Brady and whoever he threw to. I think
the closest you may have is Troy Aikman and Mike Michael Irvin.
Or maybe Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison at the, and even that doesn't feel right.
He also had Reggie Wayne on the other side, and they had Dallas
Clark,
it's definitely hard to find another tandem that's equally as successful as they are.
Man. And like we've alluded to, 4 Super Bowls, won them all, never lost.
He only lost 1 Super Bowl in his whole career.
Right, exactly, and that wasn't on him. That was rigged, in my opinion. But that's a conversation for another day.
We both agree. Number 1. Let me just read the comments. Anthony Ray had Lawrence Taylor as his number 1, and Brian Bush had Deion Sanders as his number 1.
I'm not mad at that.
He also said LT changed how the position is played. Yes,
absolutely.
We talked about that. I mean, he single-handedly made 2 positions important. Like when you say Reggie Wayne forced teams to have to invest into a pass rusher. This man made you have to invest into a left tackle to protect that blind side, and to invest into an outside linebacker, because at the time linebackers wasn't really rushing the quarterback; they was trying to stop the run, because that's what it was. But he made it into a pass rushing type linebacker. He established that. So hey, and you had to invest into your quarterback, which quarterback was always valuable, but he made it where you better have a quarterback that can get the ball out their hands.
Exactly.
So, just to push even further on Jerry Rice, man, to me, he was my number 1. So, like I said, I like to go through the accolades. Drafted in 1985, first round, 16 pick overall. Wide receivers that was in front of him was Al Toon that went to the Jets. The Jets are always drafting the wrong guy, right? Eddie Brown, who went to Cincinnati. Oh, he was the 3rd receiver off the board. So 3rd receiver off the board in 85 drafts. Bless you, sir. He played for San Francisco from 85 to 2000, then went to the Oakland Raiders at the time from 2001 to 2004. Then pretty much played with the Seattle Seahawks in 2004. I didn't even know he played with Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, barely.
Then played with Denver for that last year, 2005. In the midst of his career, 3 Super Bowl rings, Super Bowl MVP. As a receiver, Super Bowl MVP. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Normally, quarterback gets that. Two-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year, 10-time First Team All-Pro, 1-time Second Team All-Pro, 13 Pro Bowls in total. 6-time NFL Receiving Yards Leader. He led the league in receiving yards 6 years, pretty much in a row. 86, 89, 90, 93, 94, 95. 2-time NFL receptions leader, 90 and 96, 6-time NFL receiving touchdown receiving leader, receiving touchdown leader, 86, 87, 89, 90, 91, 93. That's crazy. NFL scoring leader in 1987, 80s and 90s all-decade team, 75th anniversary team, 100th anniversary team. So my reasons why I wanted him to be number 1. At first, I'm not going to lie, I had LT as number 1 just because.
I'm mad at it.
Come on, man. We just went through what this man did. But after going through, Jerry Rice was either number 1 or number 2 for me. It was not even not a question. But like Jerry Rice, still to this day holds the most NFL receiving records. And like you said, there's been plenty of great receivers before Jerry Rice and even after Jerry Rice and during the time when Jerry Rice played, and they still can't break this man's record. Some records I don't think will ever be broken.
No.
So let's look at some of these records. Most career receptions, 1,500, 1549. I guess in the season he had the most receiving receptions. Oh no, that's receptions, career reception. I mean, he caught the ball 1,549 times. Most career receiving yards, 22,895.
Yep.
That probably won't be broken. Even though with a passing lead, that's still hard to break.
Exactly.
Anthony Ray said I went back and forth with Montana and Rice. Randy Moss was a hard one to snub. Yeah, Randy Moss definitely could be, if there wasn't a Jerry Rice and if there wasn't a Tom Brady, Lawrence Taylor, and all them good guys, Randy Moss would definitely be, because he changed the game, evolutionized the game. Everybody, we all know, hey, you got Moss. We all know that. But yeah, you definitely gonna snub some guys, and we could probably go back and say, hey, I would have, if I keep them 4, but if I can open it up for an extra player, we'll kind of go through that as well, because I got a guy who I want to add. But yeah, most receiving touchdowns, 197. Most career total touchdowns, 208. Most career all-purpose yards, 23,549 46 yards. And we got to remember, he wasn't a speedster.
No, he was not.
I think he ran like a 4.48 or something like that in the combine. Exactly. He wasn't a speed type receiver. He was just a pure route runner. Pretty much the West Coast offense is where it was, where it began in that Bill Walsh system. So a lot of short routes that he turned into long routes. That's pretty much what happened. He dominated in two decades, the 80s and the 90s, and probably would have dominated in the 2000s if he wasn't so old. The greatest receiver of all time, by far. Like you said, it's disrespectful for you to say, I mean, yeah, you could say Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, but it's still disrespectful because Randy Moss was great.
Exactly.
But how many? But he wasn't even able to accomplish the rings. You can't. The rings automatically dismiss him. The yardage dismiss him, and also Randy Moss caught a lot of long balls. Jerry Rice turned a lot of short balls into long balls. Calls, but that's what happened. So when it comes to the level of competition compared to what Jerry Rice was able to do, it's unmatched.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, just to piggyback off of your points, I don't think a lot of his records are gonna be broken, only because he did play in both eras where there wasn't free agency and where there was. So the odds of keeping a wideout on one team,
right,
and keeping not even just a competent quarterback, but a good enough quarterback to get him the ball consistently. That's so difficult and virtually impossible to do now.
Right. And people are trying to say, oh, he had Joe Montana. Well, he also did it with Steve Young. And yes, Steve Young is great, but he ain't no Joe Montana.
No, he's not.
I think Jerry Rice. I think Jerry Rice made Steve Young.
He did,
but Joe Montana was an established quarterback. Yep. Steve Young, to me, I felt like he was given the keys to the car, and he turned it out. Like you got Jerry Rice at the same time. So let's look at that. And then just my last point, the notable matchups, bro. Like Deion Sanders, you're going against Deion Sanders.
Right.
You're going against Darryl Green. That's what Darryl Green was. Rod Wilson, Arenas Williams, and Mike Haynes of the LA Raiders. Those are just during his era, the cornerbacks that he would have been matched up on, and he still gave havoc. He gave havoc to Deion Sanders sometimes, and it was always a matchup with them two. Yep. It was always a competition between them two. Sometimes Jerry Rice would get the best of Deion Sanders. Sometimes Deion Sanders would get the best of Jerry Rice. And at the end of the day, if any one of them can get the best of the greatest of all time at their positions, I mean, you got to be great, man. You have to be great, because who can really, how many receivers can really say, man, I gave Deion Sanders a run for his money today? Consistently. They may gave him one good game, and then they see Deion Sanders another 2 years in their career. Jerry Rice had to see this man. Pretty much, he was in the same team, and then he had to see him. He had to see him not only in practice, but sometimes he had to see him in the field when he played with the Atlanta Falcons. I think we was in the same division. I think we was in the same division with the San Francisco 49ers. Then when he went to Dallas, they seen each other in the playoffs. They seen each other in regular season. So they probably played a lot with each other because they was the top teams in the 90s. So at the end of the day, man, to see the matchups that he had to go in and game out, and you had to stop him. Come on, bro. So like just some career stats: 1,549 receptions, 22,895 receiving yards, 197 touchdowns, bro.
And 208 total touchdowns. 208 total touchdowns.
Total touchdowns, bro.
He leads. Outside of quarterbacks, he scored the most touchdowns of any offensive player in the career wise in the history of the NFL. Period.
Yes, I stand corrected. Anthony Ray said he's a Falcon fanatic. He said yes, we was in the same division with the 49ers. Yeah, so that's crazy, bro. That's crazy, man. So yeah, that's how Mount Rushmore. If you could add anybody to your list, or if you could switch somebody, let's do that first. If you could switch anybody on your list to add somebody else, who would you do? Who would you add?
Oh,
who would you take away?
That's so hard. It feels dirty to do it, but I would take Reggie White off and put Deion. Yeah. It feels so wrong to do that, especially him being a longtime Eagle. Oh God.
I think that's what's getting in your way though. He's an Eagle. He's an
Eagle. Man, nah. People listen, your nickname is the Minister of Defense.
Yeah.
And again, this man had almost 200 sacks. Nah, bro. The only reason is because like I felt dirty about having two straight up defenders on there. I was trying to spread the wealth a little.
Right.
But,
yeah.
I mean, he had two offensive players, so whatever. What about
I can take anybody if I had to switch anybody, Deion Sanders would probably be the one I would have to switch because he's to me when you look over all these careers, Deion Sanders. I mean, he's my top, but he also can be replaced with other players. If I had to say if I was adding somebody, it would probably be Barry Sanders. But the reason why I'm gonna say Barry Sanders is because to me he's a GOAT of running backs. Even though there's running backs that have had more yards than he did, but I guarantee you can't name one player that was on any of his teams. You can't name a quarterback, receiver, unless you was a Detroit Lions fan. It ain't nobody you can name from the Detroit Lions during the time when Barry Sanders was running. And also, the man couldn't even finish his career. He had to retire because the Detroit Lions organization is just so dysfunctional, even still to this day. When you look at their great players, they all retired early because Calvin Johnson, he retired early because it was just like, bro, I'm tired of losing. Like, I'm doing all this.
I'm putting my body on the line, and for what?
You're not putting no talent around me. I'm having to go out here game in and game out, and then I play in Detroit. Like, it's a football city now because of Barry Sanders, but it's not. The first thing you don't think about the Detroit Lions when you think of football. You think about all the other teams, all the football cities. Detroit is the steel city. It's known. Not steel city. It's known for for creating the car and all that good stuff. Right. But it's not known for football. Like that's just not a football city. And so I think Barry Sanders I could probably replace Deion Sanders with Barry Sanders because to me he's a GOAT of running backs because what he was able to do, just to get 1 yard. I mean, he had to break several tackles. I mean, you couldn't really get this man down. You couldn't even catch this man. So it was just like for what he was given the circumstances. Yes, he don't have the rings. He don't have no playoff experience. I don't even think he ever got to make it to the playoffs. Right. But he kept that team. To me, for him to not be able to make it to the playoffs and do what he was able to do in those 8 years, like that was crazy.
Exactly. In like 8 or 9 years, this is wild. Yeah. I would say he's definitely in my top 3. And he's not 3, but Jim Brown, Lord, I mean, and but that is a different era. So, but I will say in the modern era, absolutely, Barry Sanders, absolutely,
yeah. Because Emmitt Smith, I mean, you're running behind elephants. You got the greatest team with Troy. You got a great quarterback. You got a great receiver on the outside. The best offensive line that have ever been assembled.
Right.
And then you
Got a
just put him.
solid, strong
And I
defense.
love Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith is the reason why I love number 22. And I thought I wanted to play football and what number 22, and it didn't work out in my favor. I got to what number 22, but I didn't. When you put that number on, you better be ready. And I wasn't ready. I was go. But at the same time, like, bro, like, yes, you were great. Emmitt Smith is great, but you also had a lot of talent around you. You ran the 90s, and Barry Sanders had to do everything on his own. Right. He didn't have a quarterback. He didn't have a receiver. I can't name one. I don't remember anybody that was a teammate of Barry Sanders. Right. Unless somebody can tell me, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you might have to go back in the archives or dust off like Blitz, NFL Blitz or something like that, maybe.
Yeah. So Anthony Ray said I went back and forth with until and then he said we used to be in the same division. Okay. He said I'm adding Randy Moss, and then he also said Walter Payton. Yeah, Walter Payton. I mean,
Walter Payton is on
Walter Payton. Yes. Sweetness. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So like but if you can add, well, I guess we kind of did that. If you could like take somebody off your list and add somebody. So I guess we ain't no point of doing that. But it's you're gonna always snub somebody because it's only 4, but it's so many other greats that we just didn't get to, or we can't put them on our Mount Rushmore, because in order to be on the Mount Rushmore, you got to be the best at your position. And I feel like everybody that we named, when you look at all the other players that play that same position, there's nobody that compares to LT. There's nobody that compares to Jerry Rice. There's nobody that compares to Tom Brady. Yes, you do have Joe Montana and all them, but what Tom Brady has been able to do and still able to do, there's nobody that can equal up to that. And then Deion Sanders is the greatest cornerback by far of all time.
Absolutely. And Reggie White, you go argue
Reggie White. He got to the
quarterback. Minister of Defense.
Yes. Rest in peace to the great Reggie White.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. So yeah. So hey man, another great episode in the books, man. How you feel after that?
I feel great. Yeah. Feeling good. Feeling great. How are you?
Hey man, it's another great episode in my opinion. Probably better than the last one. You know what I'm saying? It's because we actually went in on these topics, man. I love the topics that we chose. So I'm just anxious to see how this, the success that we're gonna have, with this show, man. I really feel like a lot of people have been tuning in. So shout out to everybody that's been supporting us. Shout out to everybody that's been watching the whole time. Cause we pretty much had somebody watching the whole entire time.
Oh, appreciate you. I know we went hot and heavy with it, man. But
yeah.
We had 2 hours, man.
Yeah, we had 2 hours pretty much, So like that's good, bro. Shout out to my boy Bush, man. Hey, my brother for life. Thank y'all for tuning in, man, all the way from overseas. Thank Anthony Ray from still being a fan of the show, man. Definitely, bro. We can't wait to have y'all on. Hey, Bush. Also, bro, if you want to come on this show and debate with your boy all the way from overseas, hey,
run it. We some international flavor.
Get that J&B talking the dirty South going on a little bit, But so shout out to everybody, man. Shout out to all the people that's been watching that probably didn't, we didn't notice that was in the room. Hey, when we live, man, shout yourself out. We're gonna definitely acknowledge you. We're gonna definitely acknowledge you. So y'all, we love the participation that we got today. But we want more. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on Fan of Atlanta 365. Don't forget to hit that like button. Help us grow, man. We trying to grow. We trying to get there, and the only way we can grow is by y'all support, by subscribing to the channel, liking, sharing, commenting. That's what get our numbers up. So definitely help us out with that. Shout out to my guy Hassan, man. He's been doing this thing. He's been a great co-host. I'm happy to have you on the show, bro, man.
Likewise, man.
I just get excited, man. Saturday come, it's like game day. It's like game day. I'm ready. But during the week we put in that work, on top of having our life, going on at the same time. So thank you for just being a part of this journey with me, man.
Thank you for having me, brother. It's been a blast.
So hey, y'all definitely catch us live next week. We're gonna have 2 more topics for y'all, and then I think it's the last week of the preseason. So we definitely gonna enjoy the season when it get going. We're gonna have more topics to discuss. We discussed the Deshaun Watson thing last week, and we saw they gave him a 11-game suspension. So they increased the suspension and gave him a fine. So at the end of the day, but we gave y'all our opinion. I think we gave insightful opinion for that time, you know.
Agreed.
But at the end of the day, man, we appreciate y'all for joining us live on another show with No Huddle with Jeramy and Hassan, man. Catch us live every Saturday, 1:00 p.m. Eastern time. Join us live, man. However you may follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and also I think we even live on Twitter. So if you join us live from Twitter, hey, shout out to you. But like I said, man, go to YouTube right now. If you can hear me right now, go to YouTube, subscribe, type in Fan of Atlanta 365 and subscribe. Like, share, comment on these videos if you got something to say, because we always gonna come in back. Don't forget to tell everybody, man. Tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your dog, tell your cat, tell your snake, tell your rat, and throw in your falcon if you got one, you know. But yeah, we definitely gonna be live for y'all next week. Hey, you got anything before we get up out of here?
I just want to say we appreciate the support. Keep coming out. Looking forward to next week.
Yes, sir.
Y'all be safe.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all. We out of here.
All right.